Li Fang put out on his Substack a report. Lockheed Martin boasts to investors Ukraine war fueling, quote, $10 billion of opportunities now to the end of the decade. Last week, Lockheed Martin executives dined with bankers at the Waldorf Astoria Monarch Beach, a shimmering resort that sits perched above a seaside bluff in Orange County, California. In a presentation, the defense contractor, which produces a variety of missiles, munitions, and rockets, gave a sunny financial forecast for the Ukraine-Russia war. Quote, just switching gears to Ukraine, says Morgan Stanley analyst Kristen Lewog during an investor town hall with the firm. What's the opportunity? And Jay Malave, the chief financial officer for Lockheed, gave the following response. Lee not only wrote this piece, which I encourage you guys to go and check out his Substack, but he also included the source audio from this public conference, which we are going to listen to right now. So here's a conversation he just introduced.
Just switching gears to Ukraine. I mean, in Ukraine, we've seen a premium in many systems where you're actually the market-leading offerings, right? And we're seeing that for missiles and missile defense. And these areas are where the U.S. DoD budget's up 20%, well in excess of the top line of the whole thing of about 3%. So we're seeing that outsized growth, and I think that, ties into what you mentioned earlier, Jim, on the portfolio growing in 2024. Mm-hmm. But you've also noted with that on Ukraine a $7 billion opportunity in MFC. Can you guys talk about what is in that $7 billion? What's the opportunity? Any context for program, size, timing?
Yeah, if you think about it, it's the things that you have seen in the news. And just to clarify, we've seen what we have is a visibility to about $10 billion of orders between now and 2028. We see that, what I talked about is $6 billion, that converting to about $6 billion of revenue over that same period of time. So there will be growth in revenue upside beyond that period of time as well to fully fulfill that $10 billion of opportunities. But where you see it is we've talked about these things, whether it's Javelin, whether it's HIMARS, GMLRS, PAC-3. PAC-3 is a good example. When we talked back in 2021 about our 4 pillars of growth, PAC-3 was a program that was already going to be driving growth, and now it's bringing that the ramp up to 550 deliveries per year by 2025. We're now seeing that we can take that up to 650 per year by 2027 based on this incremental demand. So that's one example. GMRS, we were essentially at capacity of about 10,000 units per year. We're now driving that to 14,000 units per year. And so there's just, as you mentioned, whether it's replenishment or just capitalization to higher levels, the demand is enduring between, frankly, now to the end of the decade.
So those are, the great Bob Dylan song, Masters of War. Those are the Masters of War. That's who he's talking about. People who very coldly and very unemotionally talk about weapons opportunity, about, business opportunities, selling weapons that literally blow human bodies into hundreds of different pieces. Just absolutely ghoulish on that level. But in keeping with this longer conversation that we've been having this morning, there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. The people who carry the most weight in this country and in this world, the people who actually have the politicians' ears, they're not expecting this war to end anytime soon. They're talking about another $10 billion through 2028, which tracks about with what they've made so far, 2.3. And they're saying this is going to carry us through the rest of the decade. And one of the things that Li Fang goes on to write in the piece, which was a fact sort of hidden in plain sight from me because dumb guy that I am, I didn't even think of this, but these weapons contractors not only have deals with the United States, but with European countries as well. And so a lot of the European countries who have supplied weapons, while those weapons may not be politically significant in the same way that our weapons are, since we give so much more of them, that's still money in the bank for these weapons contractors when they have to replenish their stockpiles. And so it's, raining money from the sky on these different companies. And as you just heard, they don't expect it to end anytime soon.
No, I mean, why would they? We I know you cover this a lot. This military budget of the United States and also of NATO as a whole. I mean, a big reason that NATO exists is to increase the military budgets of the EU countries and European countries involved, so that they will do what the United States does, right? Like increasingly rely on military contractors, privatize their defense systems, so that people like this, these corporations, these monopolies, these contractors can make a killing off of it. And that's what's going on. I mean, in 2022 alone, all because of the Ukraine conflict, all of these military contractors, the big top five, they added $10 billion plus, each one of them, the big five, in in market value. And we all have been following the ways in which the stock prices just go way up whenever there's a new infusion of cash for Ukraine, and that's because this is a long-term strategy. It's about, in many ways, shoring these kind of forces up, making them more and more profitable, and that's a big reason why wars are kind of conducted the way they are, why they're more permanent ventures than maybe in the past, where wars were supposed to have a strategic kind of victory. That no, they're supposed to continue as long as possible. It's no mistake that Russia and China, despite the fact that there's probably no chance in hell the United States can do anything militarily against them. There's a big reason why the foreign policy establishment says, oh yeah, no, we should definitely build up and work towards some kind of war. It's because that's going to take a while and it's probably never going to happen. But at the same time, there's these big five military contractors are going to make an absolute killing investing and preparing for such a thing. And then, of course, we can't also exclude BlackRock and the real giants of the multinational world capitalist system. Forces like BlackRock, they're the ones who invest in these companies, who basically own the vast majority of shares in them. It's these kind of so-called investors in big finance capital that pull the strings. They're the ones who want to see huge returns on their investments, and so they're going to make sure that governments like the United States are committed to endless war like the one in Ukraine, regardless of the consequences. Who cares about Ukrainians? Who cares about who cares? I mean, people always say, oh, well, we should fund basic needs. They don't care about your basic needs. Right. They actually would rather see your basic needs be taken care of in a way where they can just make more money. I mean, one thing, I don't know if you remember Rahm Emanuel when he was mayor of Chicago as like the chief privatizer. He's now the ambassador to Japan for the United States, and Biden had to censure him and say, stop making all these crazy tweets about Xi Jinping and China. So this revolving door, I mean, this guy is ingratiated with the biggest banks. Yeah, he's the biggest banks. He's like, he is a chief shock therapy doctrine kind of guy. That's what he does. He works for these kind of forces like BlackRock. Now he's in Japan, chilling out on Twitter, just ranting and raving about how we need a war with China. I mean, this is how it goes. There's a complete and utter a unity in terms of how finance, how the military industrial complex work. They work together, and so we're seeing it here big time.
Please clap.